welcome back, Stephanie.
Great to be back. Thank you.
How have you been over the summer?
Great. Really been nice weather here. I'm fortunate to live in Hawaii. Got good weather all year round, so I can't complain.
I forget which.
Oh. Lost sound.
Leighton, are you still there, or did you lock up? I think Leighton just locked up, Stephanie. We'll have to wait for him to log off and log back in. But you were saying you're living in Hawaii. It's beautiful weather there year-round. Does that make a real big difference for the growing cycles and the use of glyphosate?
Well, it's a problem because all the industry really likes the fact that we can go do 3 growing seasons in a year. We're all year round. And there's a really big presence in Hawaii of the industry research, developing new GMOs, resistance to glyphosate, and probably to other chemicals as well. It's a big industry here in Hawaii. There's a lot of people fighting back, but it's a battle.
Well, I would imagine it is. And I know before the show, you were talking about some of the new legislation that they're trying to pass. I'd like to actually touch on that at the very beginning here.
Sure.
To let people know that this is something that's happening and they need to talk about it.
Right. I agree completely. I'm quite worried because there's a lot of effort on the part of Bayer, who bought Monsanto, to try to get the legislatures in various states to pass laws that would give glyphosate basically Bayer would not be accountable for any of those non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cases. We've got over 100,000 cases pending on glyphosate, linking it to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and they want to get off the hook on that for sure. And they're sort of arguing, we're going to have to just go bankrupt. We're going to have to stop selling glyphosate. We can't do that. Everybody will starve. It's kind of like it's an emergency. We have to let those people die, without any compensation. It's the only solution. This is the thing they're pitching, really, is something like that.
Mm-hmm. So, when it goes up into the states and into the federal government, how can people, at the grassroots level make a difference? Is who do we contact?
Oh, absolutely. Find out who your senators are and representatives and send them, contact them and tell them, I don't want this. If enough people do that, that can have impact for sure.
Well, I think that's what we really need to do. And I know that we need to do that on a state. And like I'm in Canada, so provincial for us, but anybody around the world, this is something that affects all of us. And we really need to have, people speak up for what's going on. And Leighton, just to let you know, we were just talking a little bit on the government end of things and what's going on with that. But I'll let you guys talk as I'm only supposed to be the background here.
All right, well, go ahead and bring me up to speed where you guys were talking about.
Yeah, we were talking about legislation and how the Bayer, who bought Monsanto, is frustrated because they have all these lawsuits for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which are costing them a pile of money. And they're trying to argue at the state level and also at the federal level that glyphosate is too essential for agriculture. We can't live without it, and therefore we can't afford to have all these lawsuits because the company will fold or they'll stop selling glyphosate, and then that will be a huge problem for agriculture. This is the argument they're using, that it's so essential that we have to just let those people who claim that glyphosate caused their various illnesses, let them just go uncompensated with no recourse for compensation.
Do we have any bodies that we can use to leverage against that kind of?
Yeah, I'm sure there are activists who are working on, how people send out these emails that say, please sign on to this letter, and they'll prepare these and make it easy for you to send it to your legislators. But you can do that on your own too. Just if people who are listening here, they can just write their own letter and say, I don't want this, and send it off to their congressmen and their senators to try to stop it.
Well, that's good advice. It's good to know. Because, you don't hear much about it. All you hear is that Bayer is threatening to file Chapter 11 and reorganize, but they're not telling you that in the reorganization that they can actually pull this off.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They're doing it rather secretively, hoping that people won't notice, I believe.
Yeah, well, right? If everybody heard about it, there's no way we would let it happen. So
I'm going to take a break and close my door because there's some noise coming. Hang on.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No worries. My computer, unfortunately, the dogs were playing just before the podcast, and one of them must have pulled the plug, or they knocked the plug just far enough out of the wall that it was showing that it was charging. But then it finally got to a point where the little light went off and I didn't notice it. So my computer's restarted. And now I'm like getting bombarded with these little pop-ups that I'm trying to kill as quick as I can.
Computers are something. They're wonderful when they work, but they can really torture you when they misbehave.
So, all right, that's really good information that, we, the people, have to exercise our right to stand up against these kinds of corporations. And
yeah, individuals can really make a difference, I feel, fighting back. And certain individuals are really great at, activists on social networks and whatnot, like Zen Honeycutt. I'm very fond of her. She's the founder of Moms Across America, and she's just done wonderful work. She's been doing work the governments should be doing, testing all kinds of different samples, not just food samples, but breast milk, all kinds of different samples for glyphosate of different foods and fast food, school lunches, all these things, finding it pervasive in our food supply in America. And she's trying to get the government to get interested in taking over, because you have to spend a lot of money, to fund all these tests. Each test costs a lot of money. The government has all this money that they're not using to test for glyphosate, which is stupid, because they should find out how bad the problem is. And we're only finding out from people like Zen Honeycutt.
And so has she tested populations across the globe?
She's basically been testing foods. It's moms across America, right? So she has a bunch of moms, and she gets their help, and they will go get samples from where their kids go to school. They'll go get the school lunch sample, send it off. She tells them how to do it, send it off to this organization that does the testing, and then get back the results. And then she'll write an article about what she found. And it's just been amazing. She did one on school lunches. I think it was 95% of the samples were positive for glyphosate. She did one on fast food, from various fast food joints, 100% were contaminated. I mean, it's amazing. It is all over the food supply in this country. You can't avoid it. And it's very high levels in cereals, which are very popular, Fruit Loops and Cheerios, those kinds of things. Kids eat a lot of that. High levels of glyphosate in those foods, because the wheat is sprayed right before harvest. And that's also why we have an epidemic in celiac disease and gluten intolerance. It's not celiac disease. So many people today are avoiding gluten and casein. And I think that's a direct hit on glyphosate. I think glyphosate's the reason why we have so many people sensitive to these foods.
Well, it goes to show you people can eat breads and cereals in Europe and parts of Asia without any problem whatsoever.
I got so many emails when I started talking about it. I got emails from lots of people saying, I can't eat wheat in America. I go to Europe, I'm fine. So there's something different, between the American wheat and the European. It might relate to folic acid as well, because we require folic acid and iron supplementation, fortification in our wheat in America, and they don't in Europe. And that's a big difference too, because folic acid has a lot of issues. I've written about that as well. It's a non-natural form of folate, and folate is very important. It's actually important for pregnancy, to not have neural tube defects and things like that. If you don't have enough folate, you're supposed to get it from your vegetables, So the American government was concerned that people might be deficient, wanted to make sure there was enough, in the diet, and they did that by throwing it into the wheat. But they did folic acid, which is very different in the way that it gets metabolized, and it can be problematic. It can actually set you back on folate.
Go figure. And that's not to be misunderstood with fulvic acid, because fulvic acid is a very important.
That's a totally different thing, and that's actually very useful. Fulvic acid is great and of course about that because that's soil based, right? Humic acid, fulvic acid, complex carbohydrates in the soil. Those are great. I have lots of naturopaths who advocate to take those on a regular basis to help as binders to get rid of the glyphosate in your gut. And I think that's probably very effective.
And there are some products out there. We've had a lady on here probably about 6 months ago that makes a pharmaceutical grade fulvic acid for human consumption. So, I can make mine. I can make my own through dressing, taking compost and
Right.
pressing very, very slowly as to not contaminate it with the humic acid. And so anybody can do that. Literally, you can get a plant press, and again, make sure it's clean, good compost that has good biology, not any kind of contaminant or pathogen there. But and then you can identify that through a simple test using the Soil Food Web School and Soil Food Web lab techs that are all over the country, as a matter of fact, all over the world at this point, and they can verify compost is safe. And then with a simple plant press, you can just make it at home, and that's now considered fresh because it's coming directly from a plant and not from something that's been mined. Because that's the other problem is the typical extractions of fulvic and humic acid are done through lenodite. They use heavy acids and bases to break that stone or light rock or brown coal into those different compounds. And so you're going to get trace amounts of those rather toxic and obnoxious acids and bases that come through in the product. So yeah,
that's a good point. That really brings up that whole issue of totally natural versus the sort of supplements that are sold as products that involve a lot of processing that is tricky. So I always am very suspicious of almost any supplement. The supplement that comes as a pill or pure form of something like glycine or whatever, making that in the chemistry lab requires chemistry that can leave behind who knows what, and even like the capsule itself can contain glyphosate. Anthony Samsel tested these gel caps and found glyphosate in them. So, I'm not a big fan of pills for that reason, that they're like extremely processed foods,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Like the other issue with vitamins and supplements, and I don't think people talk about this much, is that because they're lab produced, they don't have the electrons spinning in the right rotation.
That's interesting. I don't even know about that. That sounds very interesting. That's some biophysics there, huh?
Yeah. Well, hey, you got to, if you start down one of these rabbit holes, it leads to biogeochemical interactions and reactions. And that goes down all the way, past the molecule into the atom to really start to understand, why is something bioavailable or why is something not bioavailable?
Yeah.
Like lead in certain quantities in soil are not the problem. It's the process when you take that lead and turn it into a bullet that now you've made it bioavailable. So a lot of these mines that they use to produce leads and other heavy metals, through their processes, they're creating the poison. It's not necessarily in a poison form.
Well, that's also, for example, food processing with the oils. The seed oils, and there's a lot of chatter right now about seed oils being bad for you, and part of that is the processing that's required to make them. And typically they use hexane, which is very toxic, to process, to get the oil out of the seeds. They have to use some kind of chemical-based process to do that, and hexane is a very common thing they use. And then the hexane ends up in the product, and it's very toxic. So luckily, organic, you can't use hexane if it's organic. And they can be cold pressed, There's other ways to do it, but hexane makes it cheap. So
and mass production. And mass production is all about time, because time is money.
Mm-hmm.
But back to rotations of electrons or electron sharing. The other interesting thing is that if you look at a lot of the labels on whether it's a vitamin C or a vitamin B or whatever, they're recommending these incredibly high doses because
I know
they know you're going to pass the vast majority.
Most of it disappears. You only use a small fraction of it.
Yeah,
and I really wonder about, it's ridiculous, the level, the degrees of vitamin D supplements that are going on right now. Just incredibly huge amounts of vitamin D. I'm very suspicious of that. I actually have never taken a vitamin D supplement, and I worship the sun. My vitamin D levels are fine because I'm outside all the time, and it's so much healthier to get your vitamin D from the sunlight than it is to take it in a pill.
And that leads us down another whole rabbit hole: sunscreens.
Right. That's another one that I have a big beef against. And of course, here in Hawaii, the sunscreens are actually doing a great job to destroy the coral reefs in Hawaii. It's horrible. They're
Yep.
messing up the algae that actually feed the coral, and then the coral gets sick, and then the whole thing becomes white. It just becomes awful looking. Our coral here has really gotten a beating over even the past 10 years. I can see it's much worse now than it was. And glyphosate's probably contributing to that as well.
Well,
we're just
yeah,
poisoning everything.
Yeah, the glyphosate does block, I forget the 3 aminos that are critical for plants.
Right. Yeah, the aromatics.
Yeah, but that's
phenylalanine, tryptophan, tyrosine.
You got it. Thank you. And those are critical for fungi and bacteria and protozoa as well. So, it's not just safe for the soil as they claim it is. It's just as toxic to, the organisms that build the soil structure. And
it's the same thing as the gut. The gut bacteria, the soil bacteria, they're all affected. And it's been shown experimentally that there's really important microbes in the human gut, in the infant gut. The bifidobacteria and the lactobacillus, they're so crucial in the infant gut, and they're very sensitive. Those are like the most sensitive ones to glyphosate. So when the child is exposed, even in the fetal stage, from the mother's ingestion of glyphosate, and then after it's born, it's in the mother's milk, for example. Zen Honeycutt showed that. It's in the formula. That's soy-based. That's GMO Roundup Ready soy. So the kids get glyphosate right away after they're born, and it starts messing up those bacteria. And so we have enormous issues with children having various gut problems. And of course, that's connected to autism as well, with the gut-brain axis and all of that. Complicated stories. The gut microbiome is a very complicated beast. I've read a lot of papers, and some of them your eyes glaze over. You've got these pretty charts with all these colors and all these different micros with different, it's overwhelming. The information is often overwhelming in these articles, but eventually you can start to tease out a story if you read enough of them. And they've seen certain different imbalances that are connected to Parkinson's disease or connected to Alzheimer's or to autism, and rheumatoid arthritis, all these diseases they're finding have specific dysbiosis in the gut that's specific to that disease. So it's quite interesting. It's a big, big puzzle that they're working out right now.
And what a lot of people don't understand is that it's not the stomach. It's the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine. And actually the large intestine is your pharmacy. And if you're not getting the proper nutrients down to your pharmacy isn't functioning. Kind of just like what we're talking about with the sunscreen and the glyphosate affecting the micro ecosystem that supports the coral. So
well, you're absolutely right. That's a good way to describe it. And that's what I'm seeing with the glyphosate. I think glyphosate is so much a player in all these issues we have with the gut. And of course, there's celiac disease, which has been going up over time, exactly in step with the rise in glyphosate usage on wheat. I wrote a paper on that together with Anthony Samsel. It matches extremely well with the amount of, over time, the glyphosate was used on wheat, not corn and soy, but wheat. And wheat is the one that's the problem. So it's pretty clear to me that it's the glyphosate in the wheat that's causing this epidemic in gluten intolerance and in celiac disease as well. And then you have issues with, I mentioned the lactobacillus and the bifidobacteria. Lactobacillus produce enzymes there's so many, the bacteria have so many more genes to make so many more products than we do. Our cells are quite stupid. When you look at what we can do and what they can do, they have so many different skill sets that we don't have. One of them is that shikimate pathway, which is what glyphosate disrupts. And the industry argues, well, human cells don't have the whole pathway. There's this enzyme in the pathway that glyphosate suppresses, but we don't care because our cells don't have that pathway. And what they're overlooking is our microbes have the pathway, use the pathway to produce these aromatic amino acids for the host. And the host depends upon that resource to get adequate amounts. And so you have deficiencies in these nutrients that are normally made by the bacteria because of the glyphosate exposure to them. It's a problem with the gut that leads to all these different issues that we end up with in our health. And you've got inflammatory bowel disease, which is also going up dramatically, exactly with glyphosate usage on corn and soy. You've got colon cancer, that's also becoming an epidemic. I mean, all these things that are pointing to gut problems. And then, of course, all these different gut imbalances that we're seeing. insufficient butyrate is a really big one. The microbes are not making enough butyrate, and butyrate is food for the gods. I mean, the colonocytes love butyrate. That's their favorite food. It's a 4-carbon fatty acid. It's one of the short chain fatty acids that the microbes make for the host. And again, our cells can't make the butyrate. So we're depending upon the microbes to make the butyrate, and they make it often from fiber. And we get this processed food diet that has no fiber in it. So we don't have a resource for them to make the butyrate. And then glyphosate also messes up the microbes. It hurts them, so they don't thrive. The microbes that would normally make the butyrate are not doing well. And then insufficient butyrate leads to all these different problems with the gut.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to this like whitewashing of the fact that they don't even talk about, if you consume it, then now your own biome can't produce the critical aminos and acids that you need to be healthy. You've wiped your pharmacy out.
Yeah, and that's a good metaphor. I like that.
Yeah, the woman, I forget her name, incredibly smart, and she'd done like a 10-year study on a deep dive on each different layer of the digestive system. So that's the way she approached it, was, yeah, the stomach does this, and then again the small intestine does this. There's actually even steps in the steps. Like, it's not just like it comes into the small colon and starts doing things. It's like as it moves through, it's kind of like assembling a car. So each step is helping the next step function in a way that allows the whole to function to keep you healthy. I mean, the other thing that we don't talk about is the incredible number of obese, malnourished people here in America.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
It's horrifying. Like, I live in a beautiful part of Southern California. I have the opportunity to travel quite a bit in my work, and I just look at the people that are, and again, it's not a kick. It's just that they're not well educated to understanding some of these things, like the food that they're eating. The rice and the beans, they're so polluted, and they're not getting the fact that it's causing direct weight gain because they're having to consume as much as possible just to keep the energy up, so that they can get up and function as a human being. And it's absolutely horrifying if you really start paying attention to some of these things. And it used to be the joke, right, that in wealthy people around the world were heavy, right? They were well fed was the term, right? They weren't obese, but they were well fed, and the poor people were skinny, right? And now you come to America, and it's the exact opposite, because
I know
the very wealthy are educated to the point where they understand that they shouldn't be eating these processed foods or ultra processed foods or seeds or take these supplements because they need something to offset the fact that they can't. Their bodies just are not functioning at a level that they need to for them to be a functional member of society, whether that's working, teaching, or whatever. So, and again, it's like you eyes wide open is horrifying. Like, you almost want to pretend like, put the blinders on and just, stay in your lane, so that you're not seeing this kind of stuff, because it's only getting worse. I don't see it getting any better anytime soon either.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I have hope with RFK Jr. in charge of HHS. I think he's going to eventually get into the idea of the food supply. I mean, he's starting to look a little bit at that, getting rid of the food dyes, for example. He's doing some effort to try to improve the food system, but it really needs an overhaul. And I wish he would, take away the funds that are going to the large, agrochemical-based farms, and rechannel those towards the small organic farms and really help them out, so that that balances better the cost of the organic food versus the non-organic food.
Well, the craziest part is that if you get rid of the regulatory bodies that govern organics, organics is a fraction of the cost of doing synthetics, because you don't have all of these herbicides, you don't have all of these,
You think it should be cheaper, right? You think organic food should be cheaper?
Oh, it is. Because you can grow it in polyculture.
Yeah.
So, everything works together in harmony. And that's where you get this incredible abundance. You're going to pay a little bit more to pick it.
Yeah.
But that's it. And then everything once you're done picking, it's just chop and drop and let it feed the microbes in the soil.
Yeah. It's I wish Kennedy would really make an effort to educate people on the importance of these small organic farms, to try to propagate those and to get rid of the big farms, break them up into small organic farms, get us back to the kind of agriculture we used to have 100 years ago. We need to do that, I think.
Well,
But monocrops, the monocrops alone is a big problem.
And they're fueling things like ethanol and gasoline.
Right. Well, that's an issue too that I have talked about. I actually think there's glyphosate in the ethanol in the gasoline, and I think that's problematic because it's evaporating at the gas station. It's evaporating into the air. You've got glyphosate in the air. I actually collected a sample of rainwater at my lab at MIT in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I sent it off to Anthony Sampson, and he found glyphosate in it. Just in the rain, they came down, through that sky. So I think the glyphosate's in the air.
And then you think about what happens when you burn it in a combustion engine.
Oh, yeah. Well, the glyphosate gets destroyed if it makes it to the combustion engine. It gets destroyed. It's no longer glyphosate after that happens. But I think who knows what kind of toxic metabolites might be released along the way,
Well, that's the point, is that, you've broken the molecule, but you still have submolecules, or what do you call them? Metabolites, secondary, tertiary metabolites.
Yeah, AMPA, for example. Yeah, AMPA is supposedly as toxic as glyphosate is, and that's a breakdown product.
Yep.
So,
And I think it's 173 plus degrees when these transformations start to happen. And a combustion engine, especially like a diesel engine.
Right, and that diesel smoke comes out. And when I have a diesel truck in front of me and I've got my convertible car, I'm like, we got to let that guy get way ahead, because I can't breathe that air. You can tell it's terrible.
Yeah,
just the stink that they let out in their exhaust pipe.
And because it's so heavy, it's not a light gas. It floats right back down to the ground, and now you have another level of cross contamination that people don't talk about, and so it's like one thing after another in a spiraling downward cycle, which is kind of horrifying. And I hope RFK dismantles the FDA. We are the sickest species on the planet, USA. 70% of us all have some form of chronic illness or disease. 8 out of 10. And we have a FDA, a government branch that is supposed to be protecting us from
I know they've done a terrific job, haven't they? It's really sad that the rates of these diseases are all going up dramatically. It's really scary. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, cancers like pancreatic cancer, thyroid cancer, they're all going up dramatically over time. And the government seems to just, and of course, autism, that's my big one. And the government just doesn't seem to care. I mean, autism is huge and devastating and getting worse and worse. And yet they don't even seem to be interested. Now it's changing with Kennedy. He says he's going to tell us what's causing autism this month. I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say.
In many ways, they supposedly test the vaccines to make sure they're safe. The thing that they don't ever look at is when these compounds come together, what happens.
Right.
And I believe that's what was really going to show not only the increase in autism, but the increase in long-term effects of, what is it, like 80 vaccines now by the time you're 18?
Oh, it's crazy. I mean, that's the thing, because once they got that safety network where they didn't have to get sued, the industry went crazy with it. They just decided to pop up new vaccines all the time. And it's just incredible how many vaccines the kids get today compared to when I was a child. It's just amazing. I'm surprised the parents put up with it, to be honest with you. And those vaccines all in combination, nobody studied anything about that. What happens when you get like 5 or 6 different antigens, the exposures to all these different bugs in one visit to the doctor? How can that possibly be okay for your immune system? It's an assault.
No.
And it's going to damage it. I think the immune systems of our kids are very severely damaged by the glyphosate, by the vaccines, and by everything else that they're being exposed to today.
Yeah, and it's like it's almost scary. It's almost like it's by design, like that they're trying to reduce the population by just pounding us. We haven't even talked about the air. What's going on with aluminum? I mean, aluminum levels in the soil over the course of my 15 years of studying soil have skyrocketed.
And that's in California, right?
All
over. Yeah, I know. I've heard about it from California. People.
Oh yeah, it's super high levels in the top of Mount Rainier, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. And do you think it's from the climate stuff?
Yep.
Geoengineering?
Yep.
It's like aluminum sulfate, right? I think that they're using.
Exactly right. And once it gets into the soil, the microbes pull off the sulfates, and now you've got concentrated aluminum. And another thing that nobody talks about is the feed companies. What is the name of them? Not Calgary, but they control, I think it's like 80% of animal feeds across the globe. And what they've been doing is that to increase the weight of the feed, they've been adding metals, specifically aluminum.
Oh, that's crazy! Just to make it heavier so that they can charge more.
Charge more. It's a
I can't believe that. That is so insane.
Cargill.
Yes, I've heard of them. Yes.
Yeah,
sure.
and they own the other 2 major ones. Just like BlackRock owns everything, right? They know what they're doing, right? They sell you they give you different options, even though it's the same damn thing.
Yeah.
To convince you that you have a freedom. But I did a study on horse manure. There's a gentleman that was wanting to put horse manure on an organic field, and I was like, hey, we should probably really do some testing on this because of my concern of the fillers and the feeds. Specifically the dewormer, because a lot of the dewormers of the yesteryear had half-lives that were ridiculously long, and the dewormers killed the nematodes, and the nematodes are the T-Rex.
It's so complicated, isn't it?
Yeah. And so what I found was that the aluminum in the horse manure that was 10 years old, I mean, it was ancient, really well broken down, incredible weeds growing off the top of it. And again, I shouldn't use the term weeds, indicator plants. And those indicator plants are trying to pull up the metals, pull up different elements to bring them to the surface where the elements are needed, or to make them biounavailable like sunflowers do. So anyway, I was like, all right, well, I can see why you want to use this, but let me just run a quick chemistry test on it. Let me do some direct microscopy. Sure as there were no protozoa, just bacteria, no nematodes. So I'm like, all right, well, this has clearly got dewormer in it. When the chemistry came back, you're talking in tens of thousands of parts per million aluminum. And that's when I really started diving down the wormhole of feeds. And a good friend of mine who's an aquaculturist, who also works with some of the top feed producers in New England and the local area, so New York and Pennsylvania and so forth, was making me aware that, this has been going on for probably 20 years, 30 years now, and we're starting to see the repercussions of that in animal health, because bottom line is aluminum is toxic at low pH, and our stomachs are anaerobic. And so it's, again, sending a perpetual decline in animal health as the animal gets older. Their healths are declining so quickly because they're being exposed to this toxicity of the aluminum in their gut because it is anaerobic. And then, of course, guess what comes in next? The vets with more pharmaceuticals. Oh, don't worry, we're going to get you. We're going to get you back up again. But everything is like treating the symptom and not.
Yeah. Well, and there's lots of glyphosate too. The horses get exposed to lots of glyphosate, not just through their food. Those that beet, you know, they have sugar beets. They have like this residue that they feed them that's got lots of glyphosate in it. And then they have their hay that they sleep in has probably got glyphosate in it. So I think the horses get a lot of exposure. They've got a kind of a metabolic syndrome in horses that looks a lot like the human metabolic syndrome.
Exactly.
And they've also got that founder problem with their hooves. Anthony Samsel actually got a sample of a piece of hoof from a horse that died from founder, you know, where it becomes lame. Mm-hmm. And he tested the hoof for glyphosate, and it had high levels of glyphosate in it, in the hoof. And I think that's because I think glyphosate gets into collagen, and there's tons of collagen in the hoof. In my book, I have my book here by what, Toxic Legacy,
nice.
How the Weedkiller Glyphosate is Destroying Our Health and the Environment.
And make sure her website pops up here and again so people can go ahead and get that. But yeah, the other side of that problem is that, you know, where these animals, horses specifically, are being kept in these beautiful pastures, well, around the fences is where they're spraying all the glyphosate to keep the herbs down. And so it's not like the horse is going to eat it, but of course, everywhere you go, you'll see a horse hanging his head over the fence, right? They love their boundaries. So there's a direct correlation with how that's getting into their hoofs, because they have very soft members or membrane up inside the hoof. Like if you've ever had a horse with thrush, you got to, you know, clean it out, clean the hoof out constantly and add in, I think it's DMSO, but it's been a while since I've done it.
DMSO is pretty interesting stuff. Yes, I've heard a lot of good news about that. Dimethyl sulfoxide.
Yeah. And they paint it as bad when in reality it's actually very good. I don't know if you want to speak a little bit on what you know about it, but.
Well, so DMSO and MSM, methyl sulfonyl methane, are both really interesting molecules to me because they have sulfur. For one thing, they have sulfur, which I'm really big on. I think we have a huge problem with sulfur deficiency in our diet. And then they also have methyl, right? So methyl sulfonyl methane, 2 methyl groups, and dimethyl sulfoxide, 2 methyl groups. So it's got both methylation pathway potential and sulfation pathway potential. And both of those pathways are getting disrupted by glyphosate. So I think I can see why it would be extremely beneficial to help with those 2 pathways, sulfation pathway and methylation pathway.
Hence why we put it on the horse's hooves when they get thrushed, or also when they get.
You can even just put it on your skin, apparently, you know, and it'll absorb through the skin.
Yeah, we should, as a human race, they ivermectin. They say, "Oh, it's toxic. It's not good for humans. You can't use this stuff." And in reality, it's because they want us using the pharmaceuticals, not these natural compounds.
I know they're too cheap. That you can't patent it. You know, pharma hates it. Anything that's cheap and effective, they got to get rid of it. Yeah, it feels like to me, you know, they like to trash things that are really beneficial but for low cost.
Yep, and super beneficial. I mean, we would DMSO a horse that had a tendon pull, wrap it. The next day they would be fine. They'd be out playing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And if you didn't use the DMSO and wrap it, or you just wrapped it, it would the problem would not go away. It would not escalate, but it certainly wouldn't go away. And if the horse did get a little excited, then it could even compound at certain points. So, you know, it was a critical component in naturally treating those 2 problems within horses. So I can only imagine how beneficial it would be for us as a species, especially because of the levels of glyphosate that we all have in us.
Right. Yeah. You know, there's an interesting paper that was published recently by Don Huber, Professor Don Huber. He's a friend of mine. He's the one who first introduced me to glyphosate. He's an amazing guy. He's over 90 years old, and he's still publishing papers. He did a study there was a farm, organic farm, that was growing cabbage to make sauerkraut. And they were using manure from chickens and turkeys, chicken and turkey manure on the farm as a fertilizer. And then they found that when they tried to make the sauerkraut, it turned into applesauce. It just got completely mush. Like the cabbage didn't have the proper texture to make the sauerkraut hold itself together. And it was ruined. Like they couldn't sell it. So it was a big loss, because they had a lot of the sauerkraut that they couldn't sell. And so they called him in to try to figure out what's going on here, and then he traced it to high levels of glyphosate in the manure, because the chickens and the turkeys are being fed glyphosate contaminated feed. And, organic doesn't go all the way, because you don't have to have organic manure. You can use any kind of manure you can find on the farm. And that's how you can get glyphosate introduced into organic foods. And so they actually found that the sauerkraut that they had made was actually useful to put back into the soil. I mean, they had to throw it away because it couldn't sell it,
Yep.
but they could put it back into the soil. And when they did so, it actually helped to clear the glyphosate. And I suspect that might be because of bacteria that were growing in the sauerkraut that can metabolize glyphosate.
So there's I think it's not a Pseudomonas, not a bacillus. Very popular bacteria. Is it salmonella? It might be salmonella, but it's a strain of salmonella that's not a pathogen to humans, like E. coli, right? E. coli, there's one specific strain that's bad, and then there's a lot of strains that are good.
E. coli, there are lots of them in your gut that are doing good things.
Yeah. And again, there's only one that causes problems, but they use that as an indicator species to say, oh, you're anaerobic, you got a problem. You can't use this. Whereas in reality, if they had gone down the genetic rabbit hole, they could identify, oh, this is the bad guy. Oh, these guys are the good guys. But of course, the testing for that has been absorbent until just recently, in the past few years. Now you can get DNA testing for within a few $100s and really get an understanding.
That's good that price has come down.
Yeah, and I've even found some that are even cheaper, although they're not as highly certified as some of these bigger companies, E-Crop and Mr. DNA. And so you really want to probably stick with those, especially if you're doing work at the level of trying to give people avenues that are safe. Like one of the interesting things that I learned years ago with Elaine would constantly beat into my head, Leighton, you have to be really careful with this process because you could easily flip the switch and turn this into a biological problem, like a biobomb. You could get people sick or kill them with your process. You've created the soft collider. You've created the delivery system. Introduction of certain bacteria you could harvest from nature that are platable, and you accidentally got them into your compost or into your process. And next thing you know, you're making people horribly sick. And she gave me
that's so tricky, isn't it? When you're dealing with any kind of bacteria involved with culturing bacteria, it's very tricky to know exactly what you've got.
Yep. And there's ones that are platable, which means that they can grow out, and they're opportunists so that they will take advantage of lack of competition. So again, when I speak on soil biology, specifically on diversity, I say that over and over and over again, because that diversity creates competitive exclusion so that no one opportunist can just come in and take over. It keeps everybody in balance. You've heard of the term free radical, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or virus.
Yeah, sure.
Viruses are critical for evolution. If something gets out of balance, the virus comes in and knocks it back. And the same thing is true with free radicals. And you'll hear in every medical institution, oh, free radicals are bad. They're bad. No, they're bad when they're out of control, but you need a certain amount of them.
Oh, absolutely. That's how biochemistry works with free radicals. It wouldn't work without them. I think that is something that people keep getting obsessed with, pro-oxidant, and when you have things that are pro-oxidant, they think it must be bad. And like ozone, for example, and hydrogen peroxide are things that are cheap that can actually treat and be useful medically. But a lot of people say, no, you can't, because that's a pro-oxidant. And that's an easy term to use to get people scared away, because you're looking for antioxidant, always looking for antioxidants.
Yep. And again, these are manipulations from very, very powerful individuals that control market share.
Yeah.
And how are you going to go up against somebody that owns the narrative, right? And
Oh, I know. Pharma is very good at controlling the narrative.
yeah, and it doesn't matter if you have hundreds of people; they got billions of dollars. Who's going to win?
Right.
So, yeah, it's tough. Although I truly believe post COVID, a lot more people stopped being on the gerbil wheel for long enough that they did kind of look themselves in the mirror and say, hey, you know, all I do is work, work, work. And they just seem to get deeper and deeper in debt and with less like, enjoyment in life. And when was the last time I read a book or took a walk? And so it did open people's minds up. And I think that like pre-COVID, in my business, it was a tough sell to explain to people, hey, yeah, it's going to cost more for me to come out to your property and treat you 2 to 3 times. But after that, I'm gone. I'm an anti-business business where you're going to continue to pay your landscaper every year to fertilize and put on the herbicides and just so they can come and cut the grass more and more. If you go the non-synthetic biological approach, yeah, your grass is going to grow, but nowhere near as fast. It's going to be way healthier. You're not going to have the weed pressure. You're not going to have the fungal problems because everything is going to be in balance. But selling people a penny saved is a penny earned was very, very difficult. But post-COVID, the people that I speak to, the intelligent questions that they ask, you know, none of them are like going to run out and start a business, but at least they're taking care of their own gardens and their own landscapes in a way friendlier method. And again, there's no money in making compost because you can do it yourself, right? So as long as you have the knowledge or at least a education enough to prevent you from making mistakes. Not that mistakes are bad, they're good. That's not the only way we stupid humans seem to learn, not by our victories, but only by our mistakes. Then you're going to be fine. You're going to be safe. You're not going to kill anything. You're just going to put the plant back in charge, right? And let it control the environment.
Yeah, I totally believe in terms of human health, just go natural. I think food is medicine is really the biggest message I can put out there.
Amen.
You really want to buy very healthy food, and then it'll help you to stay healthy.
Yep. I haven't been, well, I did get sick this year for the first time in 15 years. And it started as chills and sweats. I had some dry heaves in the morning, nothing really serious, but it was just chills and sweats. And then unfortunately, it went into a pretty hardcore sinus infection that gave me these migraine headaches that prevented me from being able to function.
Wow.
I was down for about 2 weeks. But prior to that, I never got sick. And I swear it's not the food. Like, I try to eat as clean as I can, but you know what I'm up against, right? I'm working all the time. There are times I have to pull in and eat a friggin' burger or because I have no choice. I'm starving. Like, I'm also what's called intermediate faster. So I eat 1 meal a day. And usually between 12 and 1, I'll
Oh, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I know Mercola's big on compressing your food into 6 hours. You know, like I like to skip breakfast. I have a cup of coffee in the morning, and then otherwise I don't have breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'll usually have some fruit or something at night, just as a snack, just to keep my sugar levels up, so I don't wake up like starving, right?
Yeah.
But needless to say, under those circumstances, you're out in the field, you're running around. Oh my God, I'm hungry. I'm gonna crash if I don't eat something soon. You're forced to eat these things that are not particularly good for you.
Right.
So the only reason I testify that I'm not sick now, these are the cleanest you'll see my fingernails. Usually, they're usually black because I'm only in compost, and I'm not in dirty, nasty compost. I'm in biological compost. You put my stuff underneath the microscope and you'll see protozoa, you'll see nematodes, you'll see tons of fungi. And that is getting infused in the perfect way under my fingernail bed. So it's slowly infusing into my bloodstream.
Ah, that's interesting. So you're
Yeah.
saying you're actually getting nutrition from the soil
Oh, heck
through your
yeah.
fingernails. Oh,
I mean,
that's fascinating.
I'm all vegan. Yeah, I'm all
That,
vegan. I'm plant-based compost. I don't use manures. Well,
yeah,
if
interesting.
you can clarify, if you can classify worm casting as a manure, okay, right? And if you classify fish poop as a manure, which you can't, because as soon as that fish excretes, it goes poof into the water column. It's just organic matter. It has a lot of really beneficial biology. But other than that, those are the only two other things other than plants that I use in my process for both my products, my application, and my jump starting the compost process itself. And I've never been, I when I was a kid, I was sick, quite often, like everybody else. Like get the flu in the winter time. Spring allergies were a problem. But all that went away when I started really getting my fingers into healthy soil, right? And I constantly, I always got composted residue, humic
It's an
acid.
interesting reason not to clean your fingernails. Just let them
Right,
stay
right.
dirty.
I know women don't particularly like that. They think, oh, it's dirty, it's dirty. Well, if you're playing in good stuff, it's not dirty. And yeah, you can still clean and scrub your fingernails, but maybe just wait till the end of the day when you get home to do it.
Oh, that's interesting. So how long have you been vegan?
Well, not vegan in food, but vegan in compost making.
Oh, I see. I'm glad to know that because
Yeah, yeah.
I don't agree with vegan as a diet.
Oh, I couldn't survive. I need protein,
Oh, good. I'm
and,
glad to hear that.
and I've been leaning away from chicken for the last probably 4 or 5 years, just because of the hormones and the stuff that they're
Yes.
doing in the feeds and stuff. Not that cow is better, but in my mind, it provides the necessary protein in bulk that I need as a human to have the energy to keep going and at the pace that I do.
Yes.
I'm afraid of pork. Like I know bacon is horrible for me, so I've cut way back on bacon because a lot of people don't understand. A good friend of mine worked at a lab in New England, uh, and his job was he was hired by the pork industry to look into the health of bacon. Like they thought, bacon as a food source, as a staple meat protein based product, was really beneficial. And let's face it, everybody loves bacon. I mean, God, the smell of bacon in the morning and bacon and coffee, oh, there's nothing better, right? So this gentleman was paid a significant amount of money to go through the whole metabolic process of what happens when you're taking the bacon and cooking it in different ways, pan, broiler, grill. I mean, he did them all. And what he realized was that as you cook it, especially if you make it crispy, you're creating nitrite. And nitrite's horribly toxic for us.
Well, that's
Nitrite,
because they use it, right, in the preservative process.
in the curing process. Well,
Yeah, so
actually,
it's not from the cow itself, it's from the processing that went into
right.
making the
It's
bacon.
it's not from the pig, it's from the
Yeah,
process.
yeah,
But
yeah.
there is still high levels of, so it goes from ammonia to nitrite to nitrate. Nitrate is
Yeah.
harmless to animals and plants. Ammonia is okay to plants in certain levels. It's not particularly good for us. Like we shouldn't be consuming ammonia. But nitrite is problematic for everybody.
It's funny because it's just like sulfate too. Sulfate and sulfite. Sulfite is extremely toxic and sulfate is not. And people who have a deficiency in the enzyme that converts sulfite to sulfate have severe disease. It's, they're very disabled. And they're not sure whether the problem is lack of sulfate or sulfite toxicity. Like both of those contribute, but it's not clear how much each one, what role does each one play as far as the disease and the symptoms that you see. So it's really two problems, right? When you
Yeah.
have a blockage in an enzyme that converts something, and there are many enzymes like that convert something very toxic into something very safe. And often that very safe thing is an important thing you need. That's true with alcohol as well. It's interesting with ethanol. It goes through 2 steps to become acetaldehyde, and then it becomes acetate in 2 steps with 2 different enzymes. And the acetaldehyde is very reactive, just like the sulfite and the nitrite. And the acetaldehyde, when it gets converted to acetate, acetate is fuel that goes directly into the mitochondria to make the ATP. So you have this barrier between the good guy and the bad guy that has to do with an enzyme that needs to be working really well to get rid of the acetaldehyde very fast before it kills the liver, because alcohol, excessive drinking leads to liver damage, and that's mostly because that enzyme's not working fast enough to clear the acetaldehyde.
Yes,
It's interesting to me, all these things that have chemistry is so fascinating, biochemistry especially.
It goes back to yin and yang, right?
Yeah.
The foundations of life, spirituality, whatever you want to call it, everything in balance is good. As soon as one gets out of balance, it doesn't matter whether it's the black or the white, right? If something gets out of balance, it's going to cause downstream
true with the microbes, yeah. But I think there are a number of molecules, like even hydrogen peroxide, that are reactive. Molecules that are highly reactive, in a way, are beneficial because they're highly reactive. They can be used to turn into things that you need. But it's just that you need to be very efficient at getting rid of them before they do damage. If you've got an enzyme that can be so fast to get rid of it before it has a chance to do something bad to your, in sort of just a spontaneous reaction. You can prevent those spontaneous reactions if your enzyme's good enough to clear it right away, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And again, biochemistry, right? And whether it's biogeochemical interactions or reactions or two of the three, those are all critical things that made humans, I want to call almost invincible. I mean, until we got into the chemistry where we started using chemistry to control the bio and the geo phases. Like, plants don't need chemistry. They have everything they need in the soil. And some, at this point, in excess. All we have to do is put the biology down to break their, what we call solubilize a lot of these nutrients that are in organic form: nitrogen, potassium, sulfur, and the list goes on, calcium. It goes on and on and on. But again, we don't have the biology because we relied on chemistry, which compacted the soil, drove the environment to a way that they could not get oxygen down to allow these critical bacteria to multiply and divide. And so again, the downward spiral, and now the soil is not, it's dirt. It's not even, there's no organic matter. And organic matter is another critical component, because if you're using a nitrogen-based fertilizer, you need carbon for the bugs, the bacteria, to consume the carbon to use as an energy source to make that nitrogen plant available. And if you're using ammonia-based, well, now you need water as a fuel source for them to break that ammonia down into a plant usable form. So again, you're destroying your organic pool, and then let's not get into tilling and what that does, oxidizing and people don't understand that if you have pretty good content in organic matter in your soil test, if you're tilling, you're exposing that to sunlight, it oxidizes and it goes up into the atmosphere. It forms CO2, which everyone's, we got a problem with CO2. Like, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because that really pisses me off. But bottom line is that, no matter what you're doing, if you're using a nitrate fertilizer or tilling or both, you are just crashing your organic matter, and at a point where eventually even the nitrates don't work in the soil because there's nothing there to break them down or provide fuel for the bacteria that could break them down.
And of course, glyphosate disrupts the bacteria that support the nitrate uptake by the plant.
Yeah, and something else people don't understand is that they're spraying Roundup just before harvest.
I know, that's so horrible. I couldn't believe it when I first heard that. That's why I think the wheat is causing the gluten intolerance, is because of that. By the way, I have to go. I think I had agreed to an hour, not 2 hours. I don't know if you knew that, but I'm just warning you, it's an hour.
No problem. So, I really appreciate having the opportunity to talk and chop it up with somebody that's on a level that you are, both in your understanding of glyphosate, the effect of it on everything from the biology to soil, and then also the bioengineering and the biochemistry, which is like don't often get people to talk about that at the depth that you can. And I really appreciate
Thank
you.
you. I appreciate
Thank
your
you,
knowledge
Stephanie.
of the soil, because the soil is also, I don't know nearly as much about the soil as you do, and I know it's very important, just like the gut microbiome, the soil microbiome. There's a lot of parallels there.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your knowledge as well.
No, my pleasure. It's what I'm here to do.
Great. Well, thank you so much. This was fun, and we'll do it again, huh? So
Please,
all
let's
right.
do it again.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye.
wonderful evening.
Bye-bye.
Uh-huh.
Okay, there she's gone now. So, guys, we'll run the contest here right away as well. So, if you guys haven't put in hashtag biology, we're giving away Leighton's composting chorus. So, we do have a couple of questions, and I wanted to put up. This is Stephanie's book. You guys can order it through Amazon, etc. So please, I know somebody's already ordered it already, and I'll put the title of it in the description on YouTube after the show as well. But let's take a look at the questions here. Does ACV, apple cider vinegar, help flush out the glyphosate from our bodies, and what else can we do to flush out of our systems? I don't know if you can answer that, Leighton.
So she was talking about using DMSO as a way to bind it up, similar to humic acid. Like humic acid is one of these compounds that we in all of our knowledge at this point in time don't understand. It's super complex. There's a tremendous amount of carbon chains involved, and as soon as you break the two apart, you get two completely different molecules that do different things. And I think what she was also talking about was the enzymatic processes. So if you can consume the right food as medicine, that too is going to help flush that glyphosate out of you. Unfortunately, once it gets into the bloodstream, it's a lot more complicated. It takes a lot longer to get out of you. So I guess the goal is to get it, if you consume something that has it on it, is to get it to pass through you without getting absorbed into your bloodstream. So I'm sure she mentions that stuff in her book. I mean, she's very deep in her understanding on how to combat once it's been consumed. So I would recommend that person go ahead and purchase that book, especially if they're around glyphosate a lot, and dive down the rabbit hole. Like I wish I could spend every day, all day rabbit holing, but unfortunately I have bills to pay.
Yep. Well, Sally Lily's saying that on another podcast, she mentioned apple cider vinegar, and Lily just wanted to confirm, but that may be one of the things that will help, flush glyphosate out of a person's system. So that's good. Good to know, Lily.
Yeah, ACV is good anyway, right? Add it to your diet, regardless of what it does, whether it affects glyphosate or not, because it's super healthy, just like fermented foods are. Very, very good.
Yes. So Farmer Cheryl had a question for you, Leighton. How does Leighton make vegan compost? Is he also making vegan ferments?
Yeah, I am. I mean, all of the products that I make, the humic acid, the fulvic acid, the what we call Trifecta now is my main product, are all just purely plant-based. I don't use a lot of weeds. I use a lot of chips. I use my green sources are typically hay, some straw. I collect oak leaves when they come in. I collect different plant leaves when they come in. I'm so blessed. I work at a place, a soil yard called Peach Hill Soils, and there's this huge pile that the landscapers, they get weighed, they bring it in and they dump it, and then they leave with their chips and their mulch and their stones. So it's perfect for them, and it's perfect for me because every day I drive around that pile and I say, "Ooh, I'm going to bring the skid steer down and grab some of that," or "Oh, there's nothing good this week." But basically, yeah, it's all plant-based compost. The only things that I add that you could technically or maybe say is poop is vermicompost, which really isn't poop. There's not manure in it.
Hmm.
And then of course fish brew, which is uh, a fish manure, but it has been, again, you can't call it manure because as soon as it hits the water, it's poof. It's organic matter in a
Yeah.
liquid. So that's how I make vegan compost, and I talk about it on that thing that Turkey has, the class.
Your chorus, yeah.
Yeah, on the course, and I showed you, like, I do pick in that particular one. I pick a lot of the local species. Again, they may be called indicator or weed plants in your world, but they're not. They're indicators. They're providing certain things that are nutrients that are basically they're telling you what needs to be done to that soil to make it better by growing. And so I
Yeah.
used a lot of those local indigenous plants because I was making compost for that property. And that's the key to this whole thing is use what you have. Like I'm at Peach Hill, I'm surrounded by mustard and a lot of these other invasive potential wildfire causing plants that are pushing out the indigenous. But in that particular video, those were all local indigenous
Hmm.
plants for the most part.
Cool, cool.
Kind of long-winded.
So, yeah. Farmer Cheryl also, didn't you say that bacteria in sauerkraut metabolizes sauerkraut? If so, wouldn't consuming sauerkraut help flush glyphosate? And I would say yes to that, very much
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. Again, sauerkraut is it's one of those, fermented foods that are so good for us, and we don't get a lot of them.
Yeah.
Unless you're German, it's not part of your regular diet, and probably should be. There's a woman here in Ojai that I met, or Pauline met, and Pauline introduced me to her, who makes just different uh, sauerkrauts and other fermented foods, and for healing people, like healing them of
Yeah.
cancer, and healing them of all these kinds of things. If you listen to what she said, bottom line is that the glyphosate blocks enzyme production that allows you to be healthy. If
Hmm.
so, you block those enzymes. Now your cells can't get the enzymes that they need to make themselves healthier, i.e., your pharmacy that you have in your body. All of us have a pharmacy. It's just by through the consumption of these nasty things, we have prevented that pharmacy from being allowed to make the enzymes and peptides, these other metabolites that we desperately need to be healthy.
Well, and the foods that we're consuming have so many chemicals in them, they're damaging the gut biome, and that's making us sicker and sicker and sicker. That's where, you know, buying local is really good and buying organic is really good. And I was thinking about this the other day, Leighton. You know, Korean natural farming talks about, don't go more than, 500 meters in height either way for the biology when you're making your IMOs. And does that not relate to our eating local foods that are growing in our area because it's the same base biology in that area? I was just trying to make that correlation in my mind. What do you think of that?
So my understanding of natural farming or Korean natural farming was that
Mhm.
you really shouldn't go much lower. Like 500 might be too much. What you want to do is you want to go higher in altitude for collecting your IMOs because they're going to be stronger. They're going to be more durable or more the ability to survive in that process. And I agree with you, Ken, because we had that food guy on
Yeah.
earlier this year, and he talked about like don't eat a banana in winter because
Mhm.
it's tricking your body into thinking that it's in a season that it isn't, and therefore isn't beneficial to your gut health and your overall being because you're confusing it. So no, if you're eating within 5, 10, 15 miles of where you live, that's a really beneficial thing. And again, like know your farmer. I think it's really important that if you're going to go to the farmer's market, take the time to get to know him. Ask him about his processes. Ask him about, do you use manures, or do you use any kind of salt-based fertilizers, or are you using, natural farming techniques, and get to know them, and understand that, like at the end of the day, they can do whatever the hell they want. I worked with an organic farmer down in Pennsylvania, and he would spray Roundup, and he would set up 2 cardboard sheets, or I think they were 4x8 sheets of plywood, or maybe they had 3x8, and he'd have a guy on each side of the row where he was spraying, holding up the plywood so that the stuff wouldn't directly get on the plant, and while he sprayed the rows in between. And I was like, well, dude, what? How do you think that that's not going to eventually the roots are not going to eventually get to it? And you're definitely knocking back your fungi and your bacteria. So, and bottom line is the reason you have those indicator plants is they're telling you something. You need to increase your F to B ratio, not spray stuff. But it's up to them to do, at least he was trying to be responsible about it and making sure that it wasn't directly getting onto his produce. But I'm all about what is below is above, and vice versa. So you still shouldn't be doing that and calling yourself organic. And these are the kinds of things that you can tease out in a relationship with a farmer at the farmer's market. Maybe he's not going to be totally forthcoming, but if you're kind and how do I say this? Don't put him on the defensive. Like, oh, you do any of these things? Like, no, just talk to him like a normal human being and say, I understand the need for some forms of assistance in farming, because you're gambling your money trying to produce something that hopefully you don't have a pathogen or a pest invasion or ground squirrels that come and chew up all your plants. So you're going to have to do some evasive things because nature's out of balance. And unless you've created an oasis where you can control, Jurassic Park, good luck with that one, then no, you're going to be subject to this. Like, dude, one of the things that pissed me off the most about California is we can't use gopher snakes. They're natural. They're the more gopher snakes we have, the less ground squirrels we'd have. No, you can't use them. You can't put an owl box on a regenerative farm. Well, the bird's going to poop. The poop's not the problem, dude. It's the ground squirrels that are chewing up all the plants, that preventing him from making money to support himself. He should be able to put as many owl boxes as he wants. Just like we should be freaking breeding gopher snakes, because they used to be everywhere. And they're not poisonous. They're not invasive. They're not gonna overrun anything. They just, again, they need to be in balance. So at first, there's going to be extra until they get the squirrels balanced. Then some of them are going to die back off, and everything's going to fall back into balance again. But that is the problem, is we're so far out of balance at this point that we're always fighting something instead of working with nature.
Well, and that's one of the biggest problems, is we're so far out of balance. And like you look at what they had to do in Yellowstone with bringing the wolves back to try to balance that ecosystem. It's the same thing in our soils. And for that guy that's spraying, the Roundup and making sure it doesn't get onto the organic plants, but like, as you say, the root system, we know that, we can bring nutrients into a plant from 100 yards or more away from another plant that's bringing up that particular nutrient and moving it to our plant. So there's no possible way that spray is not getting into the roots and being moved into those plants. So understanding that, guys, we know that that's not a farmer that we would really want to buy produce from. And like, I'm not I am a carnivore. I mainly eat, those proteins, whether that's eggs, bacon, beef, etc. What are those animals eating as well? That's something you have to consider when you're asking these farmers, where are they getting their feed from? Are they spraying their pastures in with something as well. So those are also questions we should be asking. But Jeff has a question.
You know what? Before we go on, two other things. We never even talked about what water does.
Yeah.
So spraying in the rows, yeah, the water's spreading it out. And the other thing is the miracle that's happened at Yellowstone because of the wolves, right? Everyone was protesting. Oh my God, they're going to, kill people, kill tourists. They have brought everything back into balance now.
Yeah.
Deer aren't overrunning the plants. The plants are coming back. They're bringing in new butterflies, new birds. Like the whole ecosystem has come back as a result of the wolves being introduced. So that's the kind of shit that I like to talk about, is like ecosystem restoration. You hear me talk about planting flower beds and pollinator gardens and, banker plants and all of these things, because they do actually bring things back into balance. You've heard me talk about the garden that I grew and how all of a sudden there were bugs in the garden when we had no bugs around us at all. So, you could do it on tiny scale like I did, or you can do it on a bigger scale. And, that was one of the things that I tried to get him to think about, was like, hey, instead of spraying them, why don't you just chop and drop them before they go to seed and start building that fungal, the benefit of the fungi in the soil. Did he do it? I don't know, because that was the only time I worked with him, was that one summer at Rodale. I was only there a few times and saw that. So anyway, sorry. The next question.
Nope. And you're also adding the biomass into your soil, for more biology to grow into. Like you mentioned it earlier, we're missing that organic material in our soils. And like they're saying, I think 2% you're it's almost too much, where in reality it should be like 10% or more organic.
20%. I mean, if you go to a forest system, that top organic horizon is organics, all organic. And interesting study on Kurtofa wrote a paper about what's called dissolved organic matter, as only 1 to 2% of the overall organic pool in the soil. And the only way that's formed is through exudates from the plant, which is amazing to think that we're looking at exudates as a source of carbon now. Or if the rain comes and hits that organic layer on the top and breaks out some of the humic acids and fulvic acids, that is the only other way. And then you take muncher juice, or the product that I make, and now you are 100% dissolved organic matter or dissolved organic carbon. That's why it works so well. And anybody can do it. I show in that video how to make your own humic and fulvic acid combination, and you can do it at home. And listen, 5 gallons will do an acre or 2 when it's diluted properly in water. That's a lot, and that's not a lot of work to do it. So anyway, I'm looking forward to whoever wins that course.
and just guys, just to point out, if you want to buy Leighton's products, you can go to his website and buy the products right now. I know Dirt Right is actually using them. He's going to be coming back on. And speaking of humics and fulvic, he actually sent me the contact information to a newer company called Cell Saviors. And they produce a humic and fulvic, both for human consumption and soil consumption. And we should be having those guys on fairly soon. So that's something you guys are going to be wanting to check out. But you can buy these products right now on Leighton's website, so you guys can get this. And you talked about dissolved organic matter. The smaller the matter, especially once it's like in a liquid form, the easier it is for the biology to grab those molecules and use them. They don't have to put in APT and use energy to break this down. It's automatically or easily bioavailable.
Yep, and the product, True Fact, that I've made, I've priced it super cheap for how much energy I put in it. A little bit goes a long way. If you're doing a 5-yard compost pile, all you need is 0.75 cubic feet, 1 pound at a time. Mix it up with water. and a power drill and a paddle on slow, and that 2-3 applications on that pile, that stuff's gonna rock. So
Yeah.
again, this is highly concentrated. Love in a box.
It's life, and we need more life. We need more biology. But let's get back to this question: do fermented foods cause headaches in some people?
I've never heard of that happening. That there could be something else that's causing that headache as a result of the consumption, or it could be just something else is out of whack in you. I mean, we shouldn't have headaches. Like, headaches are a result of being dehydrated, or you have what is that called? The migraine headache. It's been a long time since I looked into that. But when you have a migraine headache, that is an imbalance that's causing your body to shut down, because if you don't shut down, something worse is going to happen. So I would recommend you looking into headaches and look in naturopath. Don't look at pharmaceuticals the way they're talking about headaches, all right? Because they're going to just try to sell you aspirin and ibuprofen and all the other junk, aspartame. So look at naturopath sites, which there's plenty of them out there nowadays. And then type in in the search bar headaches prevention causes, and I think that will be very eye-opening for you.
Well, and I think a lot of it, like, I know when you do a body cleanse, you can have a reaction because of the poisons that are being released, and that may be the cause of those headaches. You have toxins that are being released and causing that. So those are one of the things that a lot of people, they stop doing, the natural remedies, because they have this crisis in their bodies that are all these toxins are being released into their systems, and they're having these, episodes. And so they stop right away going, oh my gosh, something bad is happening, when all it is it's a matter of time for those toxins to be released and flushed out of your system. So when you're doing, something like that, make sure you're doing a cleanse on your liver as well, to help draw those toxins out and be flushed out of your body.
Remember, they call it a cleanse or a detox for the very reason. And you're absolutely right. That's it. You're going to go through some pain and suffering, but then comes the healing, and you'll feel 10 times better after you get through it. So don't be afraid during the process. Just remember that pain and suffering creates wonderful things in the end. It's how we learn.
Exactly. And Tez, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but if you put in hashtag biology into the chat, you'll have a chance to win Leighton's course. We're going to be drawing that here in a few minutes. But we got a couple more questions. Leighton, do you ship internationally?
I have, and I don't know if it got through or not, to be honest with you. Like, I never heard back, but that's so common with me. And I don't understand. Like, I was like always kind of hope that people would be like, oh my God, this was great. I love the product, but I hardly ever hear back from anybody that I've shipped to. But I have sent some, I think it was Canada. I've definitely got it into Mexico. I haven't gone overseas to Europe, and I know Australia is impossible and Hawaii is impossible, so I don't even try those. But I don't know. I mean, we can try. You can always just send a little, like a little mailer box and see what happens. It's not that expensive.
Yep. And guys, a lot of
if you don't get it, I'll refund the money.
Okay. And guys, a lot of the shipping companies are not going by the weight anymore. They're going by the size of the box or by cube. So a lot of the shipping costs, if you look at it that way, is actually a lot less than by weight. So just to let you know. So Farmer Cheryl, is there a link to the video on how to make fulvic and humic acids? Also, do you apply them to soil, and what are the results?
Oh my God, it's amazing. Now, again, my humic acid is biologically supercharged. So that's why I encourage you to make it yourself. So you buy some of my product, my Trifecta. The website was up before, www.kingdomaquaponicsllc.com. There's an order form there. You just fill it out. I'll get the email, ship it out to you. 1 pound will do like a 4-gallon bucket, which will go a very long way. And you don't want to let it sit for more than 30 hours. Like I typically want you to stir or agitate it as many times as you can over a 24-hour period. But when you first get it, when you microscope it, you'll see life for sure. But if you microscope it at hour 24, you're going to be blown away. You're going to have flagellates all over the place, amoeba all over the place. It just expands it out. But when I try to ship the liquid, it usually goes anaerobic because it sits in the sun or takes 2 weeks or a week to get to you. And so I stopped shipping a product that I called Harmonize years ago because I just had too many people. Like I tell them, I'm shipping you a live puppy dog. Make sure you use it as soon as you get it. I want you to agitate it, stir it, aerate it, and then use it. And people wouldn't. They'd get lazy, leave it in the garage, and then I'd get a call 3 weeks later saying, "Oh, this stuff smells horrible. I'm going to pour it out." And I'm like, "Go ahead, but it's still humic acid. It's still going to have beneficial bacteria. It just smells bad, and you're not going to have the protozoa. They're probably going to be in a cyst form." But needless to say, I just didn't like the customer complaints, and so I stopped doing that. But you can make the liquid yourself. As far as getting the fulvic acid, you want to take the solids that are at the bottom of that bucket after 24 hours, and you want to put them in a press. You could get a little wine press at a local wine shop, a little one like this. The key to pressing the fulvic acid is slow, really low and slow, just a quarter crank a day, and or maybe quarter crank 5 times a day. You obviously want to get it done as quick as possible, but you don't want to press it till the liquid that you see coming out of it is brown. Now you're making humic acid. But if you slowly press it, you'll see that it's just this amber colored liquid that has no brown in it and no brown dots in it. Because again, you got to use the right screen. What I usually do is say, get some insect screen, not aluminum. You don't need any more aluminum in your diet. Some nylon, good nylon screen, and just wrap it a whole bunch of times around the inside of the wine press. And then over the bottom, you want to tie the bottom up and then tie the top up. So again, you can't squish any of the brown organic matter out. And that's how you make fulvic acid. And it's an incredible product if you look into what it does for the human body and cells on a cellular level.
And it's all about, making healthy cells and having the biology to make the healthy cells, and then having the components necessary to make a healthy cell. And that's where, Andy Lopez, I love the guy. He's always talking about rock dust. That's part of those building blocks that's got to go through the biology first to be able to build into the cells. But it's a combination of it all. And that's where, all of this really starts in our soils, and it's supposed to go up into the plants, and then we're consuming those plants, or the animals that we eat are consuming those plants. And that's how it's supposed to be getting into our bodies. It's a cycle.
Yep.
Now, this is the last question I've got right now. Would lysergic acid help us to grow?
Lysergic acid diethylamide will expand your mind, my friend.
Okay. I won't go any further into that one. And somebody says, yeah, expand my mind. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen, guys, for the contest. If you haven't put in hashtag it's all about the biology into the chat, and you do want Leighton's course or your chance to win Leighton's course, now is the time to put that in before we run the draw. And if you want to just buy that course, Leighton.
3-Eye Tiger. Go to Instagram, 3-Eye Tiger.
Yes. Yeah. And then you can get it right away. Hey, guys, I'm so late. I will have to catch up. Dirt Right, you're going to be coming on soon, and I have contacted those guys on that website. So hopefully they get back to me soon and we have them on. But anybody, okay, we've got 8. So let's run the contest now and see who's our winner. Here we go. I love how this little contest thing works here. We get to see it in real time. And Dr. Levy, you need to send me an email at it'sallaboutthebiology@gmail.com. It's really easy. It's the name of the channel with the gmail.com. Send me an email so I can send that email to Perky, so Perky can get you the link to the chorus, and then you will be able to watch Leighton's chorus and learn more. And guys, we're going to be trying to do this every week, giving away Leighton's chorus, and maybe eventually we might even give away some of Leighton's product, but that'll be in the future. But Dr. Levy, make sure you send me that email so that we can get you the link to the chorus. And she says, I'll try. Well, don't just try, just do it, okay?
No such thing as try, only do.
Yep.
Words of Yoda.
Anyway, Leighton, is there anything else you'd like to talk about? Like, I know I'm writing a book, guys. It's called It's All About the Biology. So I'm trying to get that done. I had a family member pass. It's been a long time where I haven't been able to really function, and I'm just getting back into the flow of things. So hopefully that'll be coming out soon. But Leighton, anything? I know you've got a movie coming out on you, don't you?
Yeah, I haven't reached out to see where that is. It's a documentary. It's not about me. It's about composting. The Muncher guys, Muncher crew's on it, and she interviewed me a few times. Again, she's an artist. Like, she spends a lot of time videoing what she's actually going to do with all those individual clips and how it's going to unfold. I have no idea, but I definitely will let people know as soon as she has it out and ready for people to view it, and we'll see where it goes. But other than that, I got some pups looking at me. So again, thank you, Ken, for all the time that you put together behind the scenes to make this happen every week. Give Sil a hug for me, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.
Okay, guys, don't forget last Wednesday, our co-host Andy wanted to go out and to a chorus, an event that was happening on Wednesday night, so he got the week off. He should be back this week, so check out this week's show. Gardens the Untold Story should be on Wednesday evening for you guys. Unless, of course, you're in Australia, then it'll be Thursday, probably Thursday morning. But guys, we'll see you soon, and take care, everybody.